the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.
Toss a coin to your witcher. Why is it whenever I sing it kind of sounds like Ethel Merman? It's about 12 noon today on the 18th day of August 2025. The weather outside is 71 degrees and hazy. I'll take what I can get. Today we're doing another first look at one of the many PDF books we got from that 57 games for $40 thing from Humble Bumble last month. Sadly, that Bumble's no longer up. There's another one up. It's not quite as good, but it's still pretty decent. But there wasn't enough games on it for me to get that one. So today we're looking at The Witcher from our good friends Mike Poundsmith and company over at R Talsorian Games. The Witcher has a long, weird history. Like, if you're like me, you knew there was a series of books, you knew there was a video game, and then you saw the TV show with Henry Cavill, The Curse of Cavill striking again, of course. And now he's left that show and handing off the role of The Witcher to somebody else. There's a new video game calling out, and apparently they've switched the focus from the main character to the female character, and a lot of people are having trouble with that, and because it sort of ruins the lore and whatever, I don't know. It's very confusing because if you didn't know this, there was also a runner-up, that's not the word, but there's also a series being done overseas about the same character, the same series of books. So we have the American Harry Cavill series, and we have the video games, which most of us associate with. But then there was also a series done over at the other side of the world. We're going to go to the Wikipedia. Okay, so, and try and go through the history here. It's very confusing. So this comes from Polish Arthur Andreas Sapowski. We've got 9 novels and 15 short stories. The story revolves around Gestalt, whatever his name is. It started with the 1860 short story. And then he wrote 14 more short stories. And then started a series of novels in 1994. And then he did the 5th and final installment in 1999. Then there was a prequel in 2013. And then a prequel to the prequel in 2024. Apparently there's a cult following. It's been translated into 37 different languages, sold 15 million copies. They've also been adapted into film, The Hexer, 2 television series, The Hexer and The Witcher, a video game, and a series of comic books. There have been 75 million copies of the video games sold. So we got the short stories. Then we got The Witcher that we all know and love. Then we got some anthologies. Then we got the spin-offs. Then there was the Hexer TV show, plus the video games, and then the Witcher, which brings us up till today, which is the Witcher 4 video game coming out, focusing on Ciri, the female protagonist who has the weird powers. But we all love Yennefer, right? We love Yennefer in the video games. We love Yennefer in the books. We love Yennefer in the show. Anna Charlotta, who's doing Yennefer, has just been amazing. So yeah. So are we confused? And I'm sure it's going to get even more confusing with the change to the mythology with the new series coming out on Netflix if it happens, because Mr. Cavill's not associated with it anymore. So how are they going to explain that the new guy looks and sounds completely different? Some mutation, or are we just gonna hand wave and nobody notices it? It's like, hey, or it'll be like, or it's gonna be like little inside nods when somebody says, "Oh, I didn't recognize you," kind of things, like, to sort of acknowledge that, yeah, we know it's a different guy. Poor Henry Cavill, man, he just cannot get a break. All right, let's look at the game. If I can bring it up, okay. We're on the cover. We've got our dude. We've got some art. It's 313 pages, including the bestiary. That's a little much. Let's just take a look at the character record sheet, if there is one. Going to go all the way down to the bottom here. Character record sheet is this? I don't remember interlock enough. Is this the interlock system? This looks more like Fusion. Or did they use a brand new system for this? I don't remember Cyberpunk having this many skills. All right, let's see what they say. So, this is a little hard to read, guys. Here we get the history. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. The continent. 5 pages. The character sheet for Geralt, as he stands today in the books, video games, I don't know, whatever. Looks like his highest stat is his reflexes. Then he's got his skills. Looks like a 1 to 10 series. Got some magic. Here's Yennefer with her spells. Here's Yasker or Dandelion. There's some person I don't recognize. So we got some example character record sheets. That's good. Maybe a few too many, but okay. Then we have create your own character. Choose your race. Run a life path. Okay, that sounds like interlock. Pick your profession, pick your stats, select your pickup skills, get your money, go. All right, so pick your race, and we got races. So races are basically, looks like divided to different parts of the world, right? We've got the humans, the elves, the dwarves, the witchers, and the mages. Are the mages a separate race? I thought they were just humans who'd gone through training or had a mutation, or I don't remember. It was weird. The trouble with the first series of the series on Netflix, it was told out of order because it was supposed to be, you know, both current timeline and the past timeline and all the events leading up to the moment when Geralt and Ciri met. And it's sort of, you know, and then you're watching the season 2 and season 3 and you're like, wait, what's going on? Who's that? I don't know. We got both human and elves. I remember we have human and elves. I don't remember dwarves in this series. Were there dwarves? I don't remember dwarves. And we had the witchers, and then we had the mages. There was a big thing with the mages, right? But I don't remember what. So we got the witchers. I guess they're a separate race. And then we have the thing about the female witchers. There are no female witchers in the canon. But of course, obviously, this is a role-playing game. So if you want to change the history, you can. And that's part of the reason why there's so much problematic issues with the new video game coming out, is it postulates that Ciri could become a female witcher, right? I think that's what's going on. Then we have the elves and the dwarves. Okay. Then the humans. Yeah, humans. Blindly stubborn. Yes, definitely. That's our region. All right. Then we roll on a life path. You do a region, homeland, fate of your family, fate of your parents, your family status, your most influential friend. I have to roll all this. My number of siblings. It does feel like interlock, a little bit more in depth than the original life events, which is, you know, this is all the one that everybody really cared about when we were rolling the life events, right? If you played Cyberpunk or any game like this, it's like, let's get to the life events to see if I get any bonuses or anything like that, right? Fast affairs and hot date. Then the fortune, misfortune tables, allies and enemies. Some romances, your personal style, your profession. So we got the bard, Yaxer. We got the craftsman. I mean, craftsman's definitely a profession. I don't know if craftsman would go to an adventurer, but sure. We do young Keg, you know, the tailor. Criminal. Got a shuriken for some reason. Doctor. Interesting. Are there doctors in the movie? Mages. Yeah, Yennefer, definitely mages. Man at arms. I'm just a guy with a sword. There's our favorite. This is kid with a spear, man. Merchant character class. Sure, why not? Priest. Second favorite. And then, of course, the Witcher. Are you going to play a Witcher game where there's nobody who wants to be a Witcher? No. You know, the whole point is I want to be a Witcher. I want to be a Witcher. We're going to have a whole party of Witchers, which I guess is possible. You know, you could have a lot of Witchers do a lot of very specific things, but then there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, like, I don't know, magic. So the stats are intelligence, reflexes, dexterity, body, speed, empathy, craft, will, and luck. Is that interlock? me see if I can find a cyberpunk record sheet. All right, so cyberpunk uses, I can't see because it's too small. Cyberpunk uses int, ref, tech, cool, attractiveness, luck, MA, body, empathy, and then run, leap. So yeah, it looks like it's close to interlock. I mean, I know they do have another system that they played around with, but yeah, looks like they at least partially influenced. And it's point based. So 60 points for average, 70 points, 75 points for heroes, 80 points for legends. We've got words to stat levels. I don't have a 15 strength. I have a heroic strength. I love that. I love that. You know how I am about using words instead of things. We got the derived stats based upon the main stats. We have example characters that we could look at. We get the different layouts of what happens if you do this. You know, here's your hand-to-hand, your physical blah, your skills, description of the skills, how many skills you get, which stat each skill is linked to. Skill resolution is a D10. It's D10, adds a swordsmanship and his reflex. For a total of 30, the merchant then rolls a D10, adds his swordsmanship, which is 6, and his reflex is 7, for a total of 19. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it's interlock. It's all D10s. Yeah. Or maybe a little bit of interlock and fusion. Leveling up, getting more points to put into things. How you level up. Reputation, skill trees, bard skills. So we have skills specific to, as well as just the general skills. The doctor, the mage, men-at-arms, blah, blah, blah. Merchant skill tree. A lot of little pretty colors to differentiate. The layout is okay. There definitely has a little bit of wasted space disease, but not that much. Hardly any art, which is both good and bad. Shopping, weapons. Using the game world appropriate language when, it makes sense. Let's call why call it an X when we can call it a Y? Because that's what it's called in the book. We all know what it is, but we're going to use the name from the book instead of what it actually is. I read something about the other day about they tried to get a historian to name all the different type of pole arms, and he couldn't because there's just so many. Because basically, pole arms are just basically anything I had in the barn that I could put onto the edge of a long stick. Different types of armor description, the differences between human-made stuff and non-human made stuff. Interesting. Would do the dwarves make weapons different than the humans because dwarves take longer and there's a lot of crafts and they use different materials. So that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen a game do that before. I'm sure there's some have. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything I dislike. This game never did very well. I don't think I remember one person running a Witcher game when it first came out here, but I never heard what happened to it. I don't know if they continued playing it or if they decided to switch to a different system. So yeah, it never really bubbled up other than the first time it was mentioned. And I mentioned that I was curious about it, but then that was it. And that was when the game first came out. I don't remember if people were excited about this game, which I guess in hindsight doesn't say a lot about the game. If I can't remember anything about how it, obviously it was not as huge as people would have expected. You know, it's definitely one of those things where here's a world that definitely needs a role-playing game. There needs to be a Witcher tabletop role-playing game because the look of the video games are so popular, and the books, though confusing, are so popular, and the show, though confusing, is so popular. Let's make up a game. And then R Talsorian somehow gets the rights to the Witcher game, puts the game out, and yeah. Now, if anybody out there ever played this, please let me know. Is anybody still playing it in 2025? Please let me know. Here we have the magic system. So we've got, looks like magic costs mana to spend, and then obviously the rolling is involved for the spells that require rolling. When you're out of mana or whatever, you can't do it anymore. Okay. Excuse me. Then we got the priest system. If I were ever to write my own game system, there's so many different things I would be stealing from other people's games, which is always fun as me as an independent creator. By the way, independent creator means you don't work for a major company. You know, it's like, hey, there's an idea I'd steal. But I don't foresee myself making my own system anytime soon because I've got Shadowdark and I've got 5,000 other systems. You know, if I wasn't working for Shadowdark, I'd be writing with for either phase rip or basic role playing or any other system that's established. That way I know the math is right, you know. So here we have different rituals. I'd much rather create for somebody else's system than create my own. I have created my own system, right? I mean, Champions New Millennium, GURPS, Supers, the Project, Silhouette. I've done that. Working with Miguel on Wretched. Now I've got Shadowdark. I don't need to make my own system. I'd rather make worlds for that system. Alchemy and crafting systems. Got a crafting system. Well, because it's a video game. So of course it has a crafting system because how much of the video game was spent grinding, collecting herbs, right? Interesting, different diagrams, difficulty. You know, I like this, you know, how difficult it was and like everything's, you know, it even has the list for what you would need to craft it, just like in the video game. Okay, that's very clever, right? See this? You need like, I need X amount of timber, and X amount of iron, and X amount of feathers. And I put all those together and somehow it makes something else that makes no sense. as much with usual video game crafting systems where you're like, how do the three of those make that? Why did I need the 27 flowers? That has nothing to do. Okay, whatever. So yeah, look at this. This is brilliant. It's tongue-in-cheek, using the system, translating it from the video game to writing, and then also sort of making fun of it, how ridiculous it is, you know, but also sort of trying to make it as real world as possible. Like, you know, if you've ever seen somebody build something by hand, not like I'm talking about like IKEA, but literally like, you know, watching a blacksmith at Knoxberry Farm or watching a real carpenter and seeing all the parts that go into making a part. And you're like, okay, well, he melted some iron. He poured the iron out. He pounded it into shape. Bam, horseshoe. And then you look at the video game and it's like, okay, I need iron. I need leaves. I need the heart of 3 wolves. Bam, horseshoes. That's not what I saw at Knoxberry Farm. So yes, obviously some of these are a little ridiculous, but I think that's the point. But I love that they did this. And I mean, it's silly, but it sort of works. You know, like if you had a character who was crafting and you were collecting the stuff, here's how many things you would need. It's kind of like getting material components for spells. And I like this presented in diagrams, like, because that's very historically accurate there. The master would pass down to the apprentice the way the master learned from the previous guy, and he would hand over his diagrams, his plans. This is how I make horseshoes. I'm teaching you my way of making horseshoes, and then when I retire and you take over, you will have my diagram for horseshoes, and you will continue making horseshoes my way. Don't try and experiment. And then, of course, you get somebody occasionally who goes, what if I did things differently? What if I tried to do this to make a horseshoe instead? So yeah, really well. I cannot tell if this is AI art. I don't think I care anymore. What is this we're looking at now? Oh, the alchemy system. And then different formulas, so much work on the crafting. Then we get to combat. I think combat should have been before the section on crafting. It should be character building. How do I play? Then the fluff, character building, fluff, character building, fluff, character building, fluff. At least, that's how I think it should be. The combat system, if you're familiar with interlock and all the ins and outs of cyberpunk, then you probably know this. Fumble table, critical table, special effects, a more in-depth combat system, resolving magic, art, but not a lot of art. Again, there's always going to be, is this AI? Is this hand-drawn? I have a feeling this is AI because there's a guy stuck in the wall. Oh no, she's knocking around toys? She's a giant and she's knocking around people that are normal size. Yeah, I have a feeling this is AI. I don't mind the AI art. Right? At this point, I don't care as long as it's good AI art. Corpse King makes really good AI art. Jack Lost Lore, even though his AI art is very simple, it makes good AI art. Jim, the AI art Jim has made for stuff for me in the past is really, really good. So I've seen a lot of good AI art. I've also seen a lot of silly AI art, lazy AI art. Wizards of the Coast, a lot of lazy AI art. If it's good AI art, like Corpse Kings, I won't make fun of it because it's good. But if it's bad AI art, then yeah, I'm gonna make fun of it. Where do I consider my AI art? I know it's gotten better. It's still not great. I still think I can get better. People say AI is not a art. It's like, dude, yeah, it is. It's as much work throwing all those prompts at the AI and getting them in the right order to get the thing that it produces to even look slightly like what I have in my mind as it does just painting it. Trust me, if I could draw it, I would. So here we got a whole section of healing, a whole section of verbal combat. What? Oh, for bardic stuff like that. We've got seduce, persuade, appeal, and befriend. And then we got deceive, ridicule. Okay, so a whole section on insulting people. I don't know if that's necessary, but all right. And back to the world. So we have more world building. We had world building at the start. We have more world building, more in-depth world building. What's going on in the kingdom of Kedwen? Is this wasted space? I mean, it's important, if you want to set it in that world and you have no idea. Like if your total knowledge of the world is, I watched the series and I know there's a video game like me, you might need this much stuff. If you've played through the video game, you might not need as much of this. And if you've read the books and played through the video game, you probably don't need this at all. But this is not written for, the hexed Witcher otakus. This is written for people like me who have some general knowledge or the video game players. And I played this video game and now there's a role-playing game and I can play my video game character who my video game character spent, 10,000 hours harvesting flowers. Just more world building. Maybe too much world building. I don't know. Again, I suppose if you have no knowledge is important. I like that it's all in one book instead of two separate books. 300 pages for a book, though, seems a little excessive. You know, anything over 250. Romance and how not to make it world weird. That's important. Blue booking. Wow, I haven't seen blue booking mentioned in a long time. How to run the Witcher. Section of racism. No. Oh, I guess there's a little safety tools in here. Encounters. Rewards. Random possessions. What does this guy have on his body? Relics, i.e. magic items. There weren't a lot of magic items in that world, were there? I don't remember. How to run a campaign. Why is there a horse on the roof? Rules for what to do when the player's gone. That's always important. Curses, like Geralt's curse to be stuck with Ciri. The state of the world. More stuff on Witchers. How to make a Witcher character with a Witcher life path. Life as a Witcher. I mean, there's got to be a lot of section on the Witcher specifically because that's, you know, the main character. And we're going to assume that at least one person wants to play the Witcher. I mean, I suppose you could run a Witcher campaign without anybody being a Witcher, but then it would just be a standard fantasy campaign. You know, you're playing in this world with this book because you want to play the characters in this world. You want to be a Witcher. More runes, more magic system, more examples of the magic system and magic items. The monsters. This is obviously very important since monster hunting is such an important part of the Witcher universe. Each one separated in its own little section. I like this. I'm seeing this. I mean, I guess since this game is technically old, it's not a new way of doing it. But it's new to me because I've only seen 2 or 3 games using it. But yeah, I like this style. That's the product I'm working on now. I'm using more of this style. So just all the different thingies. And if we remember the TV show and the video game, there's a lot of thingies to fight. There's a lot of things. This world vomits up weirdness. Pretty much the same level of D&D, if not more so. Sample adventure. Then the character record sheet. A little heavy-handed, but okay. I like it. I don't love it. So Cody, that's Kid. I don't know if I ever met Cody. That's Kid Poundsmith. Then we got Lisa Poundsmith, who I did meet. And of course, Mike Poundsmith, who I've also met and spoken to in the past. And then just there it goes. All 300 pages of The Witcher. Art is fine. It's definitely, you know, empathizing the look. I don't care if there's AI in here. It's fine. I actually think since it is based on a video game, there should be AI and scenes from the video game on here. World building, thick, juicy. Again, written both for the point of view of, hey, I'm the OGGM and have no idea about the Witcher franchise other than what I saw on TV. And, you know, people who've read all 19 books and whatever. So if you're like me, it gives you just enough to run the campaign. And if you're like, you know, people who's watched the series and read all the books, and it's like, it's really just, here's everything you know and some stuff you don't know. And then the amount of work they went into the magic system, the crafting system, the alchemy system, that is just brilliant. It's funny. It's very tongue-in-cheek, obviously. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, acknowledging that this exists in the video game. This is how it works in the video game, that people who play the video games do sometimes just, you know, grind that as opposed to actually doing the game. You know, there's people who just min-max and just grind, you know, leather or iron and manipulate the auction house. So it takes a look at that and it makes fun of that and it presents it in a system that ridiculously, but I guess works. I mean, I'd have to see it in play, but I mean, because it's written from the point of view that you assume somebody's going to invest as much time role-playing crafting as they do when they're playing the role-playing game. I mean, the video game. Some wasted space. Definitely not a lot, not as much as some other games we've looked at so far, but definitely there's some things where I was like, this feels like a waste of space. It just feels like padding. Less is more. You know, I love the monster layout. Thinking that different species would make the same thing differently. So talking about how weapons made over here and weapons made over there and weapons made by the elves, even though it's the same weapon, is following the same diagram, might be different because it's affected by the personality of where it's being made. And then the magic system, the crafting system, of course, character building, the magic. Yeah, I mean, would I play this? I mean, if somebody ran it and invited me to play, but it wouldn't be on my list, you know, like I have to play this. I had no interest in playing it when it first came out. I was like, I've already got fantasy role-playing games. Why not just run Witcher and Dean in Pathfinder or whatever? And then, you know, obviously, I only know of one game that was played where I live. It's not to say that there were other people playing it. There's not to say that other people aren't playing it now. I don't know. Has anybody played this game? Do they feel this is a good game? Do they feel it did the video game / TV show / movie / comic book / European video game / European books? Very convoluted, very confusing, but we do know that it leads us up to the next season of the Netflix and the new video game, which is already getting issues with it because it rewrites the lore. I mean, it's R Talsorian, so it's hard for me to find fault, especially since they employed me for a short period of time. It's nothing that overtly awful. I mean, the presentation is good. There's some wasted space. The system is good. It's a system I'm familiar with. It's a system I used to love. There's definitely a lot of stuff about interlock D10 that I absolutely love. There's some times when it felt like it could have been simplified, which, you know, instead of trying to simplify it, we went the opposite direction and made it way more complicated by coming up with fusion. Let's take interlock and combine it with the worst. Let's take the worst part of interlock and combine it with the worst part of champions, make a brand new system, and then try and make it work. But hey, at least I can take my little bit of pride out of that period of time with people telling me, well, it is a great skill system. It's one of the best skill systems we've ever seen, oggm. And I was like, really? Oh, wow. At least that's my little bit of gaming history, gaming, you know, that I accomplished something that people considered amazing at that point in time. Now, who knows? There's probably way better skill systems than the one I wrote. I look at it now and I'm like, really? You thought this was a good skill system? God, it's awful. But I guess, you know, the 90s were different. And we end where we started with the picture of our boy killing some monsters. I mean, basically, you know, what started as a series of short stories in a video game about a guy hunting monsters and making things out of the body parts of the monsters and having a lot of sex turned into this massive thing. The sex might have been a reason why it's so popular. Let's face it, you know. But yeah. And that brings us up to where The Witcher stands today, which we've mentioned several times already. We've supposedly got a new season coming out on Netflix, but it won't be Henry. It'll be somebody else. I don't know how they're going to explain that. You know, they're just either going to hand wave it. Oh, yeah, he's always looked like that. Or there'll be, you know, he'll undergo some ritual that makes him look different and sound different. Or it'll be very tongue-in-cheek. It'll be very, you know, subtle how they acknowledge it. Like he'll come into a bar and somebody will go, who's that? And he'll go, it's me, Geralt. And the other guy will go, oh, I didn't recognize you. It's been so long. That kind of thing, you know. You look different. Did you put on some weight? Did you cut your hair? Have you been to the South? It looks like, you know, that mountain air was good for you. You look revived. You look different. And then just never mentioned again. Just occasionally, maybe once every couple episodes, somebody who hasn't seen for a while goes, "You look different," or whatever. But I don't. In order to handle it, the change of actors, it has to be done very subtly, and it has to be done, just where we don't really draw a lot of attention to it. We acknowledge it, and then we just move on. And then maybe we occasionally make fun of it. At least I would, but I don't know. Probably just the best way to do it would just be to somebody say, "You look different. Did you get some sun or something?" And then just move on and never mention it again. Probably like Jack Skirt, he sees Jack Skirt for the first time in a year, and he's like, Jack Skirt's like, "You look different. Did you put on weight?" And that's it. Never mentioned again. This is how I do it. I don't know. What do you think? So did you ever have a chance to play the Witcher role-playing game? If you did, please let me know. Did you play through the video games, the first 3? Let me know. What are your thoughts on Witcher 4 and making Ciri the protagonist and apparently making her now a Witcher? Are you like, I'm okay with that? Or are you more like, no, the lore is very specific. Ciri can't be a Witcher in addition to everything else she is. She's already a Mary Sue enough. I don't know. Or do you just not care? No, great. There was a Witcher role-playing game. I don't care. Moving on. Did it need its own role-playing game? Could it have just been a supplement for an existing game? At least it brought Interlock back for a few brief moments. Sadly, the game I don't feel was ever as big as it could have been. You obviously went into that thinking this is going to be huge because the franchise is huge, and it wasn't huge. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Just because it wasn't big here. Maybe there's people in like the Midwest and like, Ohio who's like, we've been playing Witcher nonstop since it came out, dude. We love this fucking game. We dropped every game we were playing for Witcher. I don't know. I can just tell you my personal experience here where I live. That's it for today. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you don't appreciate this content, let me know. We've got plenty of more games to go through. So if you want to hear me keep doing this, please let me know. Till next time, I'm the OGGM. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Please check out my merch, which is all on sale down below. And I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
Monsters lurking in the night. Heroes ready for the fight. Dice are clattering on the wood. Storylines misunderstood. Get the